Ain't no thing. And I'm going to have you look at me, okay? And I'm going to actually lead you in a prayer for each other, because as women, as sisters, we're family. What family does is family prays for each other, okay? So I'm just going to lead you in a simple prayer for one another, and I'm just going to invite you to repeat after me, okay? Here we go. Lord Jesus, bless my sister. Allow her to know who she is to you. I thank you for creating her as a beautiful woman. Thank you to heal her heart so she can shine with your love. Mother Mary, we entrust our hearts, lives to you. Show us what it means to be vibrantly alive as a woman of God. And we're just going to make as we pray to our Blessed Mother, as we say together, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Our Lady, Queen of Peace, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. You may have a seat, my dear sisters. I've been looking forward to this for a really long time, and we've got about an hour, and really this whole talk is going to be about you. It's going to be about who you are and what God is calling you to, and you're going to hear a lot of amazing things. I've got everything from biology to theology to philosophy to all kinds of things for you today. I've got art, I've got all kinds of stuff, and it's really about you, but really what we're going to hear is we're going to hear a story. And we're going to hear the heart of stories from people. And there's something about a person, when I hear a lot of stories, my story. So what happens is when I share my story, people share their stories with me. And what I've learned about story is that's a very sacred thing. And before I begin, I'm going to invite on stage somebody who's a part of her story with you. And her name is Allie. And what she's going to do is she's going to share part of her story that's very sacred. So I just would like to invite you as daughters, as sisters, when we hear somebody's story, especially part of the story that's very honest, it's very vulnerable, that if we can open our hearts to her in compassion and receptivity and give her a safe place just to be loved because she's beautiful. So as a sign of our openness and receptivity and our just delight in her today, could you put your hands on Allie to the stage, please? Here we go.
All right, can you guys all hear me? Okay. Yeah. All right, hi ladies. My name is Allie Johnson, and I'm from Issaquah, Washington. And I'd like to share with you the story about how God revealed himself to me in my life. So my story starts this last fall. My relationship with God was really not the best. I kept God at a really safe, comfortable distance. My relationship with God was sort of like a buffet. I got to pick and choose what I wanted it. But whether or not I realized it, whether or not I wanted to admit it, my heart was becoming so wounded because I didn't have God. It was wounded because of my own sin and this continued on for several months. Next part of my story takes place in January. I was still at this place with God, but even more so, I just kept telling God that, God, you just stay over there. Yes, I'm in control. So one night in January, I was hanging out with some friends of mine, and hanging out turned into drinking, and drinking, me getting majorly drunk. And that same night, I was taken advantage of in the worst way imaginable. And as I mentioned before, I was so wounded. And for several months, I just kept God still far away because I just told him and I told myself that I was in control and I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. That guy's actions that night It was like a giant thorn just jammed into my heart. And after some time, I just held on to this heart, this broken heart, this wounded heart, and I hit my rock. And at one point, I told God, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but you do. So for once in your life, I won't keep you at that distance. Just please reveal yourself to me. And he did. He revealed himself as healer, protector, and lover. And he showed this, just from his own revelation, but also just through my friends and my family. Doctors and counselors took care of me through my past. And it's amazing how truly loved I am by God, even though I considered myself dirty and damaged because of what. It's like God is slowly, to this day, even months after, he's slowly taking that thorn back out of my heart. And so, ladies, I want to challenge you to do one thing. Be honest and be vulnerable with God and let him reveal himself to you. Because when you do that, I guarantee you he's going to love you. And once you let him reveal yourself to you, I guarantee you, it's going to be so hard to push him away again. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. That's a lot of courage here. I'm going to hug you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It takes a lot of courage to tell your story, doesn't it? It takes a lot of courage. And we're going to talk today I'm really going to just break this talk into 3 parts about what it means to be a woman. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that. Think about that. I had a wonderful mother growing up, and she's amazing, but we never had the conversation of what does it mean to be a woman? And so for a long time, I thought I just didn't have an answer. But what I realized as I got older and looked how I lived my life, I realized that I had an answer because nature abhors a vacuum. So if we don't have one answer here, we're going to have another one here. And I just didn't know that about myself. And one of the things that I love, one of the ways that God teaches me, I don't know how God speaks to you, but one of the ways that God teaches me is I've got really almost creepy stories about little kids that deliver messages to me, then they disappear. It's kind of weird, okay? So, but I was thinking of, I have a whole bunch of them, but just yesterday at the airport, I was in the Dallas airport, and I was just, I have a lot of airport stories, because when you go out public dressed like this, very interesting things happen to you. All right, so, but I was standing against the wall and just being stared at by people as they walked by, and that's okay. But so I was just standing against the wall, just watching people, and I like to, do you go to the airport and you just watch people, okay? Now, I'm at the point now where I watch people watch people. It's a little creepy, right? But you're like watching people watch people, like this is like Inception. Okay, so I'm standing against the wall, and I'm just watching people walk by, and it was so great because I was thinking about you guys, and I was really praying about this talk and my time with you. And this dad, I love dads and daughters, to watch dads with their little girls. And it just happened to be in my line of sight is this dad he's about 6'4", this huge guy, and he had a little 4-year-old girl with him. And she had shorts on and a tank top, and she had her ponytail on, and she's like trucking down the Dallas airport, And I her before she saw me, and I looked at her and I smiled. She goes, and she looked at me and I smiled at her, and she kind of walked in. It was great because she was like I was standing there. She watched me, and then I looked at her and she looked away, and I looked at her and she looked away, and then she's like backwards, watching me, and then she looks up at her dad, and then she takes like one last peek at me over her shoulder, like, "What's that girl? Like, why is she wearing that?" It was so cute, and it's like you can tell she's like a smart little thing. And then she was chasing her brother, like carrying the carry-on bag after that. This little girl, and I thought about her and her life, and like this beautiful little girl that God has created, and I wonder what her life is going to be like. I wonder how she experiences herself even as a little girl. Like, what does it mean to be a little girl, and how does God delight in you, and what is to your life? And I found myself just praying for her, just like, Lord, just bless this little girl who you can tell already she's a little spitfire just by the way she carried herself. It's very interesting, and I might talk about this later in the talk on relationship. About body language, that your body actually because you're listening to me, right? So you're listening to me deliver to you a message, but you're also observing me at the same time. So we talked last night about first impressions, but there's also something about body language, and body language experts, your truth will always leak out of your body. You can't hide it. Everything from how you hold your hands to what you do with your hand gestures to how you carry your feet. And one thing body language experts say is that the body never. Fascinating. So I'm watching this little girl just strut down Dallas airport. I'm like, I loved her already. I just loved her. And I thought about her story, and I was just asking God to protect her and her story and this beautiful reality of what it means to be a woman. Talk about the feminine identity. And my dear sisters, I thought for a long time that it didn't really matter if I knew what it meant to be a woman. If I did, great, but if I didn't, not a big deal. What I realize now is that everything in your life depends on and how deeply you know. And I'm not talking about just intellectual knowledge, because that is very important. We must be intellectually informed. But from the knowledge to go from here to here, so you and I live out our authentic, vibrant femininity. And when we do that, that's how we change the world. I'm going to talk about 3 different parts here. Can you pull up my PowerPoint for me? I'm going to talk about 3 different parts about identity, okay? So these are just 3 basic things. So you're going to track me here, and here's what I'm going to talk about. So if you looked, I'm just interested what words mean. So if you look on dictionary.com, you're going to find a whole slew of meanings. And I chose 3. These are just classic textbook meanings of identity, and I'm going to build this whole talk around that, okay? So number 1, who I am, okay? Number 2, that I am me, and number 3, which I found profound, is that I am the same under changing circumstances. And this, the third one especially, is an outpouring of the first 2, but the third one's very important. Because you are changing circumstances. How many of us have had like 400 emotions already today? Like when you wake up and you're like, oh, I hate life, and I want to get up, and they're like, more coffee, please, the iced caramel macchiato, whatever I need to know. Like, you know, we have changing, and so what happens is if I'm not solidly in who I am, then when circumstances change, I'm going to think that I need to change in a sense of my deepest core belief, right? Or who I am. But the truth is that who you are and made in the image and likeness of God is a daughter of the reality of who you are, and that never changes. It is like an anchor of the boat of who we are in the midst of a raging sea. And the further we go in that reality, that relationship, allow God to heal us, to integrate us, the deeper the anchor goes, and the deeper the anchor goes, the stronger you stand firm. One of the things I love about our Blessed Mother, Our Lady of Guadalupe, that woman's powerful. She's fierce, you know. Have you ever seen The Passion of the Christ? Have you seen The Passion of the Christ? And I love the portrayal of Mary, because it's such a beautiful portrayal of her as a woman who is so feminine and so vibrant and so vulnerable and so receptive and so tender, and yet that woman is a warrior. She does not shrink from suffering. She does not shrink from fear. And she walks with her son all the way to Calvary. And there's this beautiful part in the movie, as you know, where he falls for the 3rd time, and it's in slow motion, right? Where he falls, Jesus falls to the ground, he's bloody, and she's been facing off. Satan has been walking with her all the way to Calvary, and they're looking at each other, and she's like, oh, no, I'm not backing down from this. And this point where Jesus falls again, and it just goes in slow motion, the music playing, and you can just see just his flesh being torn. And as he just hits the ground, just the way the camera catches that moment where he just hits the ground. And in that moment, Mary remembers a similar experience when Jesus was a little boy. And she remembers him 8 years old playing, and he's falling down. And in that memory, she goes and she runs to her son. And in the memory, she remembers scooping him up, and he's crying, and she just this best part of the feminine genius, this for people that need healing and restoration, and she scoops Jesus up in her arms and she heals him. And as she's running toward her son now as a grown man who's carrying the cross for you and for me at this very moment, she realizes that she can't make it all better. But she doesn't shy away. And she goes up right next to her son, and there's such a powerful point in the movie. They are face to face. And she reaches out for her son who's suffering, and this time as a mama, she cannot make it go away. Out to her, and he says to her, behold, I make all things new. All things new. So that means, my dear sisters, whatever you're with today, I love this. Whatever you're sitting here with today, whether that's sorrow or joy or glory or triumph or whatever it is, like an anxiety, a fear, a deepest dream, a deepest aspiration, whatever that is, the truth is that is not the end of your story. It is not the end. But the best is yet to come, right? Who we are as women. So I want to talk about this. I'm going to talk first about who I am. And I want to show you a little bit of art, if I could. Okay, so this, you might recognize This is something that I notice a lot of women are showing right now. And this is the creation of Adam. And this is, if you go to the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel, you're going to see this very famous painting. So you probably recognize it. And like I said, I'm going to use my pointer for here on the main stage. So I'm going to highlight some of the part of. So you recognize this is God the Father and this is Adam. If you go to Hobby Lobby, you'll just see this right here, okay? And you'll recognize that. And so this is very famous, right? The finger of God animating Adam. And this is painted by one of the most famous painters of Western art, Michelangelo. Extensively has sculpted and painted, and one of the most famous painters. John Paul II calls him the artist of the theology of the body. So if we could just be a little bit mature here, I just want to point out to you the beautiful bodies that Michelangelo has painted, the body of beautiful of Adam. And then here we have God the Father, okay? And you'll see within God the Father, around God the Father, there's some people here. So I'm going to go from here, which is what you usually see, I want to show you something that you may not know or you may not have seen. So if you go a little bit closer, what you're going to see is this is God the Father, and you'll notice that behind him looks like what is a red cape, but it's actually the shape of a human brain, right? What it represents of God, okay? And I want to point out to you that all the people that you see in here, you see various people, which are mostly angels, but the person closest to the heart of God the Father, whom he has his arm protectively around, Eve. Right? You'll see that Eve has her hand on the forearm of God the Father, and he is carrying her very close to his heart. She's not an afterthought. She's not somebody who he might. This is somebody who comes directly from his heart, and we know the story of Genesis, where God creates man out of the earth, and what he does is he creates man out of the earth, and he brings to Adam, which is actually, the word's very interesting when you read the Bible. It's lost in English. Before Adam and Eve, before the distinction of male and female, the word Adam meant humanity. So God creates humanity and brings forth all these animals and all creation, and he realizes that none of these creatures are suitable creation for Adam. So John Paul II calls that original solitude, where man stands alone before God, and what he realizes is that God gives him his identity. That identity is not created, it's not self-determined, it's not assigned, it's actually a pure gift. And it's only to the extent, and I say this as much to myself as I say it to you, it is only to the extent, my dear sisters, that you and I go to God face to face every single day throughout the day, and we ask him, tell me who I am. Tell me who I am. Speak to me of the deepest parts of me. And when we do that, the anchor goes very, very deep. We call it, John Paul II calls that original solitude, Because how many times have you and I, as much as I love technology, okay, and we're going to talk about like some later, as much as I love technology, how many of us have ever pulled up our feeds, which I'm sure you've never done this because you're holy and stuff? Okay, so I'm going to pull my Twitter feed here for you, and maybe your feed is Instagram, or I find Snapchat really scary, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, so here we go. Scrolling through your feed, okay? And have you ever just started comparing yourself to other people on your feed? And you're like, oh my gosh, she looks amazing. What filter is she using? Oh my gosh, she looks great. Okay. Oh, she's lost weight. I can't believe you liked her Instagram. She looks so right? Or somebody takes a picture of you, you're like, oh my gosh, my nose looks huge, take that off, okay? And you scroll through your feed, and we call it unwinding. 4 hours later, you go to bed. And so there you are. And for a second, you say to yourself, man, my life is not like this. And if there's an award for lamest life ever, I'm pretty sure it's mine, because I think I have it. Because what we do is we call this reality. Have you ever had your whole day ruined by a text message somebody sent you? Or what somebody said on your Instagram? She said that to me, and you're trying not to think about it, but you're totally thinking about it the whole day. And our whole day was ruined because something like this, somebody speaks something into our life that it just hits our hearts, doesn't it? And it happens to all of us at times. It hits our hearts. What we do is we think, well, if I could just get that person to think about me this way, or if I had more followers, or if I had this, or if I had that, who am I, what we do, and so we get lost along the way. But we don't have to be slaves to this, and we shouldn't be, because this will dictate our life, really break us. But if I can go to God in prayer, and if I can go to God and know who I am, if I have people in my life that remind me of who I am, I can stand before them, and I can stand before God, and they will speak to me of the deepest parts of me. So God, it's such a gift, the identity that God gives us as women. That biologically, our sex is determined, I'm going to use the word sex as biological sex. Our sex is determined by our fertilization, by conception. When a sperm meets an egg, whether an XX chromosome or an XY chromosome if you're a boy, XX girl, XY boy. that your chromosomes, your hormones, that your interior reproductive systems, your external genitalia, your secondary sex characteristics, they all come from biology, which determines who we are. And that is your soul, not a bunch of souls hanging out that he takes. It's you. At that very moment of conception, you are created, a creature, a creation that has never existed. This is just mind-boggling to me because do you know ourselves to each other many times? And I think as women especially, we have that weakness where we compare ourselves to each other and we find, it's not too long ago, you're finding all stuff about me, like done confession, here we go, part 2. As I got totally jealous of somebody that I know. 41 years old, I'm a grown-up, right? And I'm a nun for the love of Pete. Get it together, right? Okay, so I got totally jealous of somebody that I know, and she was doing something that I wanted to do, and I could see it rising in my heart. And I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm totally jealous. And it was just, I had to go to the Lord and say, what's really happening here? Like, what's going on? Because she's really beautiful, and she's really talented, and she's really amazing, and I want every good thing for her. And I had to go to the Lord and say, Lord, tell me what's happening right here, because we need to get to the heart, like, right now. Who am I? So to the extent, my dear sisters, that you and I go, because every woman has a question of, am I beautiful? Am I desirable? Do you want to have a relationship with me? Did you know girls bully each other is different than the way that guys bully each other? So guys, because for guys, like their deepest question is not, am I beautiful? Like, go figure. I know they don't have that question. They have a different question. Their question is, am I strong enough? Do I have what it takes? Because men and women are complementary gifts. We're meant to go together. So men have a different question, a question that actually complements the female question, but we are different. So when guys bully each other, they'll say things like, dude, you're weak, man. Like, you're such a loser, you're so weak. Come to me and you said, Sister Miriam, you're weak. I'll be like, oh, let me count the ways. Can I tell you a few more? Because you probably don't know the whole thing, right? It's very true. But guys call each other fatty for fun. They're like, hey, fatty, what up, dog, man? How you doing, all right? They don't care. But whoa, lady. Call a girl fat and it's like World War III, okay? Oh, no. And when girls bully each other, so guys be like, dude, you're a loser, you're weak, nobody likes you. Girls will say things like, oh, you're so disgusting, you're so fat. Nobody wants to talk to you. Girls, in our brokenness, many times we are experts in completely, and I'm sure you've never done this, ignoring somebody. Not talking to them. And they come and they want to have a seat at our table like we talked about last night, and there is no very much. And we turn our backs and we cut them out of relationship, and we've done it to people and we've had it done to us, and it just epically breaks us, right? So this question of who I am cannot be answered. I can't question. People that authentically love me will reveal to me, yes, you are beautiful inside and out. Yes, you are desirable. Yes, you are worthy of a relationship just because of who you are. You don't have to earn it. But ultimately, I cannot take my question to you. I can't take the weight of it to you and say, I cannot take the weight of questions to guys in my life and say, tell me who I am. Even my mom, I love my mom. She's my favorite person, and my mom reflects to me the image of God. But ultimately, I can't take my question to her. I have to take it to the Lord and say, Lord, please speak to me and tell me who I am. Who am I? And so out of that gift, the primary relationship is between us and God, and it is then, my dear sisters, and we're going to talk about this afternoon, it is then that we can give the gift of ourselves to each other. So God sees it is not good for Adam to be alone, so he cast a deep from his rib, right? So she's his equal, and he forms out of the rib a woman. And he says, I will give him a helper, and a helper is not a maid, and it's not a servant. The actual word is the word that God refers to himself later on in the Old Testament. I will be a helper to savor. So the paramount, the receptivity and the reciprocity of male and female is so epically important. And then in Genesis it says, so a man leaves his father and his mother and he clings to his wife and the two become one. And when Eve for the first time, he says, this one, the guy is just like, what? This one at last, she's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And she's glorious. And yes, she is. And yes, you are. And when we talk about the feminine genius, John Paul II talks about the feminine genius, this is some of what he's talking about, this attentiveness to the person, right? It is our receptivity, that she is a life bearer. She is caring, intuitive, relational. We have a relational nature. Our whole life is centered on relationships, and it's inward where men is outward. Okay, so both are needed, but our heart is around relationships. It is her beauty. It is her strength. It is her intelligence. It is her kindness. It is her service, her creativity, and her encouragement. Her body, and this is amazing, as you sit here today, as you sit here today, it's your body, mind, and soul. You actually reveal God to the world, and you make the world more human. You are. You are a living revelation, my dear sisters, of the receptivity of God, of the kindness of God, of the beauty of God, of the tenderness of God, of the way the woman nurtures, of the way God nurtures. He puts you on earth and created to be a living revelation of who he is, his heart for his people. Please notice, and this is on purpose, that none of the lists say anything about how much you need to weigh, how big your boobs should be, okay? What your teeth should look like, what your hair should look like. Because we live in a society that has a very narrowly defined idea of what it means to be a woman. And if you do not fit that mold, many of us, and here's the secret, nobody does. That's the thing. You know somebody named Kylie Jenner, right? Well, she has like over 100 million followers on Instagram. She is on track to becoming the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. Her net worth is $900 million. She is powerful in her business. She's powerful as a pop culture. Everybody wants her to represent their products out in 15 seconds. Like she's tremendously powerful, and however she got to be there, I mean, she's famous for being famous. She's part of the Kardashian family, okay? But if I looked at her Instagram feed a couple years ago, and she posted a picture of herself in a swim. And this is Kylie Jenner, right? One of the most famous people on planet Earth right now. And under her Instagram photo, she said, "Here I am in a swimsuit. Yes, I've gained weight. I've said it so you don't have to." Because she herself is subject to this facade that a real authentic woman, which many times means being sexually attractive, sexually available at all times, you know, almost like the plaything of men. That is this narrowly defined thing, and if you don't fit into that thing, then you're not a woman. And for sisters, how many of us, you know, because of sin, because as we know later on in Genesis, it talks about original sin, how Satan comes like he does to you and I all the time, and he comes and he starts speaking lies. And he speaks a fundamental lie. The fundamental lie that Satan speaks to humanity is he is not your father and he doesn't care about you. So if you want to be happy, you better take what you can take while you can take it, because God will not give it to you. So it goes from a posture of this feminine posture that you and I have is before humanity, or before God, receiving with our hands open. It goes from this to grasping at this. And from that whole rupture of this relationship where Adam and Eve were perfectly in harmony with one another, I love it because Genesis says they were naked without, which means that there was no lust. There was no controlling, there was no manipulation, there was no lying, there was no deceit, there were no barriers. They saw each other with what John Paul II calls the peace, I love this, the peace of the interior. Where Adam looked at Eve and he could just see her loveliness. He had no desire to use her, no desire to gratify himself off her. His desire was to give the gift of himself in love, which is what it means to be human, the gift of ourselves in love. This total harmony between God, between creation, between each other. And then what happens, sin comes in, and Adam and Eve both buy into sin in their own ways, and that harmony is shattered. And out of self-protection, out of shame, out of self-protection, they sow fig leaves for one another, and then their relationships become suspect. God becomes suspect. Who is God? What does he really want? They hide. It's so classic textbook of like what you and I do. Usually our first inclination is to hide. When I ran a daycare for 8 years, we had like 20 Barbies. And every day before daycare, I would put all the Barbies' heads back on the Barbies. Okay, that's what I did before daycare started, because for some reason, every day the heads would come off. I have no idea that. I'm there this is my life, people. I'm like 35 years old, putting Barbie heads back on Barbie bodies, okay? There I am. All the Barbies are together, heads back on, we're all good. Okay, got clothes on, we're great. Okay, so daycare comes. Within 30 minutes, heads are all over the room. Clothes on any of the Barbies. One of the arms is missing. And I go, it's like totally like a war zone or something. I go over, I'm like, all the kids are gone and just a bunch of corpses, like Barbie corpses all over the floor, like no heads. And I saw some kids over there earlier, but they're doing something else now. I'm like, what happened? I don't know, sister. I'm like, oh, well, that's really interesting, because I just spent like 20 minutes putting all their heads back on, and now they're not, okay? So, like, what's happening? I don't know, sister. They must have just come off. I'm like, I really doubt that. I really do. Like, I just have a hard time believing that. And they're hidden. They're nowhere to be found. It's the same thing that you and I do all the time, right? And so what happens is not only do Adam and Eve experience a break with their relationship with God, with each other, with creation, oh, my dear sisters, they experience a break, a rupture in their relationship with themselves. Have you ever felt like you're at war with yourself? And St. Paul says, I don't do what I want to do, and I want to do what I don't even know. And that break in that relationship between ourselves isn't just here. It's not just in the mind, it's in the body. Let's be really honest. I won't make you raise your hand, but have you ever looked in the mirror and hated what you saw? Have you ever looked in the mirror and cursed part of your body, like literally cursed and said, I hate my waist, I hate my thighs, I hate my face, I hate my nose. Like we look at ourselves, absolutely hate what God has so beautifully created. And maybe for some of us in this room, we've hated being a girl, hated being a woman for a long time. And that comes from sources, but it also comes from strict gender stereotypes where only a woman, she only does this, or she only looks like this. And what happens is it creates like this kind of cognitive dissonance in our hearts. And I just want to share, a testimony with you of a woman who talks about that very. Here we go. I want you to hear her story because she's very honest about that story. So who I am, of being made in the image and likeness of God, my dear sisters, in biology, in the way that God infuses the soul into our bodies that makes us who we are, okay? Makes us who we are as women, which is unchangeable, which is a very beautiful thing, okay? So daughter of God and made in the image and likeness of God. And secondly, of who I am is that I am me and not you. That means that the girl sitting next to you, that beautiful sister sitting next to you that you prayed over today, she's her own unique, precious, and unrepeatable creation. It's very beautiful. And something I often say is that, from the beginning of time when God began creating, and he creates Adam and Eve, and all through the generations of all the billions of people that God has created that we'll never even know who God is, all the people that God has created. If there ever is history where creation is finished, God will have never, ever, 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 ever recreated, reincarnated a single person. That who you are the only creation that God will ever create. That you have a gift to give to the world in your essence of who you are that nobody can give it for you. Did you know that Chris, our host this weekend, did you know that he's an identical twin, right? I have a hard time telling them apart. Please don't tell him that. I'm like, no, which one are you? Okay, so they're identical twins. They have a completely different gift to give to the world. They look identical, but people often relate to twins as like twins, like, oh, the two of you, or triplets as the three of you. But they're completely and totally unique and unrepeatable. So you, as the gift of who you are, my dear sister, this is why my experience of jealousy with my friend, this is why God's like, please don't do that, because you don't have to do that. Because she is her own gift, right? And you are your own gift. And my desire is to be able to give that gift to all of you. Can see the ready yet? No, okay. So let me go, all right. So as we are, all right, so that I am me and not you, okay? And one of my favorite, there's a great philosopher, his name is Dr. Peter Kraft. Here, any artists, ladies, any arts, okay? And it might be painting, but who loves to cook? Like, who likes to, oh yeah, girl, on the Cooking Network, all over that, okay? What about like other kinds of, who likes music? Any kind of art? Yes, all right? Any kind of art. There's something about art that, does anybody ever go to the art museum? Ever been to the art museum or to the symphony? Or maybe just like you go for a walk and you just like a really good, we're gonna do this here. Sorry, this is like really awkward. Are we gonna do it? It's like flashing numbers at me. 2, 1, okay. You guys can just go ahead and cue that up and just play it whenever it's ready, and I'll just stop talking. How about that? What do you think about that? Can anybody relate to a little bit of what she talked about? Desires that she had, or maybe some confusion that she had. Like she said, there's these stereotypes that only women did this, or she liked this, so she thought for a long time, and when I first saw the video, my heart went out to her, and I think we can relate in certain ways where she felt like maybe she's at war with herself, right? So who I am as a woman, made in the image and likeness of God, with a feminine body, feminine biology, and the female characteristics of my soul of who I am, yes, that I am me and not you, that I'm a completely unique woman, and so are you. What Dr. Peter Kraft says is that we're artists. I love this. We're artists because God is. Like even now as I look around this room, every single woman in here is very different. And that's a very beautiful thing. Sometimes we find differences challenging, don't we? Like we get jealous or we compare ourselves to other people like, oh, I wish I was like that. And there's one thing about looking at the virtue of somebody or looking at their beauty and blessing their beauty and say, man, I really love that. But it's an entirely different thing to be like, oh, where we put ourselves down and we wish we were somebody else. Because see, God needs every single one of you, and every single one of you has a completely unique, like we talked about, essence of who you are and the gift that you have to give to the world. We're not all cookie cutters, and I love that. Because see, what I see from this stage is like looking out at a field of flowers. And it's beautiful. We as women, we talk about our feminine characteristics of who we are, that, she's intuitive, that she's receptive, that she's strong, she's intelligent, she knows the human heart. I tell you, sometimes it was the little girls that come up to me if there's a problem on the recess field or what the recess time. It'd be the little girls that come to me like, sister, there's a problem, come fix it. It's not their problem, but that's what we as women do. We see the very attentive. We're at a dinner table with somebody, and we can often intuit one of our friends who's sitting, several people down at the dinner table, and we know her, and we know she's not well. And you go home from the movie, you're going from the dinner, and your mom's like, hey, how was it was fun, but, something's wrong with Hannah. And your mom's like, how do you know? When you're like, oh, I know her. I just know her. So that's when you go to Starbucks and get her favorite $8 drink, right? And you go to her house, and you don't Snapchat her, you don't Instagram her, you go to face to face and give her the gift of your feminine self and your love, and you just say, tell me what's going on. And you hold her story as sacred, right? And you speak truth to her because you love her. So who I am, that I am me and not you, talk about is that, can you pull that up now, please? That I am the same under changing circumstances, okay? So who I am, the gift of me, the reality of who I am, the solid anchor of who I am as a woman does not change whether I'm experiencing. I'm still me, right, in the way that God created me to be, and I may experience deep sorrow or deep suffering or deep discomfort even in my body, but it does not change the way who I am. It doesn't change my identity, my dear sisters, as daughter of God. So when we have it, we have to look at what is the truth. Like the body doesn't lie. The body's telling me something. The way that God has created me, he's revealing something through me, through the invisible reality of my soul and to the visible reality of my body, and I can reconcile that with my feelings. Because sometimes, experiences are experiences, and when I feel something, it's true. I'm being honest about what I'm feeling. It may not match objective reality, but I'm feeling it, so it has a right to be heard. I think myself, I can relate to what Shannon, a woman named Shannon, and they're part of a group called Eden Invitation. So Eden Invitation, an outstanding ministry to women who struggle with just who they are as women, right? Their website's beautiful. Their YouTube videos are beautiful. They're just really beautiful, great group. Is talking about her story of not fitting into these stereotypes, right? But I know for myself, and maybe I felt like I didn't fit into certain stereotypes, but I know for myself I struggled very deeply in my life, as you heard me allude to last night, because of trauma. And there were just life where I absolutely did not want to be a woman at all. And many times I blamed what happened to me, the sexual abuse that happened to me, the rape that happened to me, my own brokenness, my own struggle, which is the fact that I'm like, if I was happened to me, because being a woman's very weak, and just all these areas of my life that I struggled so deeply with, feeling so ugly and just so dirty, and not wanting to go on in life many times. And it was it's been a very slow process of God. You talk about going God, and these intense feelings that I had, these intense experiences that I had, and just the self-hatred that came out from that, and going to God and going to extensive healing, and allowing him through a lot of different variety of means to heal the core of. One thing that we see happening right now in society is this epidemic of transgender ideology, or things that are happening, right? Where gender dysphoria, the experience of not feeling like you're in the wrong body, like you're a woman trapped in a man's body or a man's body, the experience of gender dysphoria is a very real thing. It's a very real thing. And it's very interesting, because it seems like younger and younger children are exhibiting this younger and younger, and studies show, this is fascinating, what you won't hear many times, this is staggering, that 80 to 95% of children who identify as the opposite sex, or who do not want to be their own sex, 80 to 95% of them actually will have all those feelings worked out, and they will be healed by the time they come of age, if they're not having gender reassignment surgery or any sort of hormones or puberty blockers or anything like that. But many times what happens is parents are pressured to do something for their kids right now versus sitting down with the child and saying, tell me what's going on. There's these huge breaks in the delicacy of the story, the delicacy of the human person. Did you know that people that identify as transgender, 41% of them will have tried to commit suicide at least once in their life? And this is even more heartbreaking, is that those who have had surgery, they are, after they've had the surgery, 19 times more likely to commit suicide than the average person. That is a heart and soul cry out for healing. Because what's happening is that what society is telling us is that this will fix you. If you have these attributes, that will fix you. As we can see, my dear sisters, at the very, very core, That's not healing at the very core. So if you're somebody who identifies as somebody of the opposite sex, does the Catholic Church love you? Does God love you? Yes. If you're somebody who's same-sex attracted, if you're somebody who's addicted to pornography and masturbation, if you're somebody who hates your own sex, if you're somebody who's perfectionistic, if you have an eating disorder, if you're cutting, does God love you? Yes. Welcome to humanity. See, the thing is that all of us are broken in our sexuality because of original sin. All of us experience, but we all experience a different kind of facet of the brokenness. And for some deeper than others, but all of us, we're all on the journey of restoration and glorious healing. Which is why Christ told that story last night of the father going after the two sons. Is because the scribes and the Pharisees were saying, this man eats tax collectors. And what Jesus is saying is, man, hey, like everybody's welcome at the table, and I want to speak to you the truth of who you are. Because what society is proposing, my dear sisters, is not fixing the problem. And God desires us to be whole, and to be free, and to be vibrant, that our hearts would be alive. So we as women, many times, our struggles come from all these, what Allie was sharing her. Maybe you have a story like me, or maybe you don't have that kind of trauma in your life, but you're experiencing something else. Maybe somebody said something to you. Maybe it's your mom. Maybe your mom's highly critical because your mom's broken. What I realize more and more as I grow up is I love my mom so much, and I realize that she's a woman like me. She has her own story. And can I just say, as a daughter, I totally judged my mom for a really long time, and I was so hard on my mom, on my dad too, because I wanted them to be perfect. And what I realized more and more in just all the years of healing that I've gone through is people just like me, and they're doing the best they can, and they make mistakes, and they need healing too, right? And so what God does is he comes to heal all of us from the very moment of our conception right into our present day, because heart is for us. He adopts us into his family, which means when he creates you, he doesn't just create you and just leave you there. He actually desires to bring you into his heart. That's called baptism, where God goes out and he looks for you, and he proposes you to come by grace. You become his daughter sacramentally. As I talked about the priests last night who have an indelible mark upon their soul. At your baptism, you have an indelible mark placed upon your soul that forever marks you as God's daughter, forever. That nothing that you could ever do to you will ever erase that mark, that you are precious to him and you are beloved to him, and his heart goes for you. St. Paul talks about that. We're adopted into his family. It's not like a fake child, because see, I'm actually adopted. My biological parents were in high school, married and very, very young, and I was the fruit of their union. They were seniors in high school. And to this day, I've never seen their faces. I have no idea what they look like. I've never met them, because at that time, all adoptions were closed. And so I don't know. I have a deep intuition of just doing my own healing. I have a deep intuition that at one point, it was after Roe versus Wade was legal, I have a deep intuition that at some point, my mother thought of aborting me. But she didn't. Because a scared 17-year-old girl said yes to life, and I was the child in her womb. And I thought for a long time, was adopted, did my mom not want me? And this is the whole story of God anchoring me into who I am, that he's willed me to be here. He's willed you to be here. All things new. And he digs deep, my dear sisters, because he loves you so much. It's like Chip and Joanna Gaines, man, going to the foundation of your house. You know what I'm saying, okay? God does not do superfluous things. He doesn't do surface things. He's always about your heart. In your life right now, God is always about your heart, and he goes to the very depths of your heart, to the anchor of your soul, and he places his love right there, and it desires to set you free. I want to pray with you, but I just want to show you, if I can we show a video? It's an adoption story, and you're going to see a video of a mother and a father who've been aching to have a child for a long time, and they're about to see their child for the very first time. Okay, so in the video, they're going to see their script up on the screen. So one of them kind of stays longer than the other, but that's okay. So you just want to listen to the words. But I want you to focus in a particular way on the dad, because they've been aching for a child, and they're about to be given a son. And when they see their son face to face, I just want you to understand how the father goes towards his son, and he just can't help himself. And that's the way God goes to you and I every single day. At every moment, he's aching to bring us into his own heart, to heal all the ways that maybe we're at war with ourselves or at war with other people. He just wants to love us. Okay. Can you guys show? He said all the years and all the time wasn't just for arbitrary purpose. It was for their son. And so, my dear sisters, maybe you're sitting here today and you're thinking of just some of your own story, which is very sacred. And maybe you've been waiting a long time, right? Maybe you've been waiting a long time for a breakthrough or a long time for a healing. And I just would like to spend these last few minutes with you just allowing the Father to encounter you. So I'm just going to invite you with me to a prayer experience. If you want to come, it's okay. And if I just would ask that you don't talk to each other, just to let your sister, if she wants to go, let her go. But I'm just going to ask you, if you have anything in your hands, to go ahead and set it down, okay? I just want to invite you to settle in. And if you want to close your eyes, you can. You certainly don't have to, okay? But I'm just going to lead you through a prayer experience of just from the moment of your conception until this present day, okay? And I'm just going to go through just stages of your life, and I just want to invite a blessing, and I'm just healing. And I just want you to just allow whatever happens to happen, okay? So if you have memories that come to your mind, or maybe things you haven't thought about in a long time, that's okay. If you find that you are experiencing intense emotion, that's okay. If you find that you experience too. But I just want to give you total freedom, and I just hold you just in such sacred reverence in my hand out to the Father. No matter where you find yourself today, no matter how young or old we are in this room, that the Father wants to encounter us to heal us. So let's begin. So Lord Jesus, I just ask that you would open our hearts to this time of prayer. And my dear sisters, I just speak a blessing over your moment of your conception, where your mother and father came together and God infused your soul and you became you. And I thank God for that. I thank you for making them women. I thank you for the gift of your femininity, my dear sisters, who you are, in all the exquisite ways that you are a woman. I thank God for the gift of your beauty, both inside and out. All the funny ways that you are you. I just thank God for that. I thank God for creating you for now, for a time such as this. And I would just like to pray right now for anybody in this room, maybe in a way that was traumatic, conceived out of rape, conceived maybe out of a quote-unquote unplanned, maybe conceived that was a surprise, that was not a welcome surprise. Anybody in this room who's ever thought I shouldn't be here, I was a mistake. I just ask you, Lord Jesus, that you would speak right now the truth of who we are. What is the truth of who we are? Speak your life. I just pray for you as you continue to grow in the womb, as it becomes very apparent that you're a beautiful little girl. As your organs form, as your eyes form, as your fingerprints form, as you just continue to develop in your mother's womb, we just speak a blessing over you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, that God called you from the time of the womb, that you were meant to be here. And I just want to pray in a special way for any areas of your life where you being in the womb was a source of sorrow or anxiety to you. Just pray in a very special way for your biological mother at this very moment, whether she's living or deceased, whether she's in this room or she's far away. I just want to pray a blessing over your mother. Just pray of any ways maybe your mother was depressed, or maybe your mother was anxious to carry you. Maybe she wanted a boy and you were a girl. Maybe you've carried that your entire life. Just want to speak healing to that part of your life. Blessing over your mother, a healing over your mother. Just speak a blessing over your biological father, as the gift of himself made you who you are. The ways that he has been there for you, the way that he's nurtured you, the way that he's reflected to you as a beautiful woman. Just pray for any ways that your father has failed you. Maybe ways that he is not, or that he was never there. Maybe he left your mom when she was pregnant with you. Just pray for a healing, my dear sisters, of any father wounds in this room right now. Pray for a healing of your dad, that he would know who he is as a man of God. We just pray for a deep outpouring of grace at that moment of your life in the womb. Pray for you now as you're an infant, as you're a tiny little baby being held in the arms of your mother and father and people that love you as they gaze into your eyes, as you saw in the video of how they wept over your beauty, of how you began to speak your first words and take your first steps. Just you are, the blessed little girl that you are. Just affirm this goodness. You are so good, and you are meant to be a beautiful girl. Just pray for anybody in this room who experienced trauma as an infant. Maybe you were adopted like me, or your parents were not around, or you were raised by somebody else, or maybe you were neglected. Maybe nobody delighted in you. Maybe nobody was there. I just speak a blessing of healing and peace, that God so delights in you. His heart is toward you, and he is captivated by you. You're a beautiful, beautiful child. So lovely. In all your ways, you're so lovely. For you as a little girl and all the stages of your girlhood, as you went to school for the first time and you got your first backpack, and maybe you too were strutting down the Dallas airport with little shorts and a ponytail. Just pray for your blessing as you made time, as you go to school, as you learn how to navigate life, and as you fall down and you get back up again. The blessing of all the things you're learning about yourself, all the things you're learning about the world, all the ways that God is encountering you even as a little girl. Just bless. Lovely, so vibrantly alive. I just pray for anybody in this room who experienced childhood trauma. Any area that be physical or verbal abuse or emotional abuse or sexual abuse. If your parents divorced at that time, maybe you were violated by somebody else, just speak a deep healing for you. And those traumas do not change who you are as a delightful daughter of God. And I pray, Lord Jesus, right now that you would speak deep words of love and kindness to those wounds in our hearts. Maybe for some of us, we haven't ever told anybody. I pray for your kindness to come upon us right now. And I just pray for you where you maybe go off to high school for the first time and you're learning how to navigate. Maybe you've fallen in love for the first time, or you've noticed boys for the first time, or whatever is in your life. You've tried out for the volleyball team, or whatever is in your life. You're pursuing college, whatever that is in your life. You have all these friends, your things. I just pray that the Lord right now would bless you as a woman, that he would give you the wisdom and knowledge to go forth in certainty of who you are as a beloved daughter of God, that you would go to him as the source of your identity, that you would go to him finding out who you are as a beautiful woman. And I just pray for anybody in this room who's ever been picked on at school or made fun of, whether by boys or girls. Anybody who's experienced something at school or at a party or something like that. Maybe somebody has told you to your face that you're ugly and nobody's ever going to like you. I just pray for a deep healing of that right now. You are so good. This room right now is struggling with an addiction. Maybe you're struggling in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship. Maybe you're struggling with your mom and dad. You're struggling at school. I just pray for deep healing and blessing over that. That the Lord would to step into grace and give you a pathway through. And I'm just going to go ahead and pray for young adults and adults in this room as well, my dear sisters. Pray for a deep healing of our lives, that God would bless marriages, that he would bless your children, he would bless your grandchildren, that he would bless all the ways in your life that you're seeking to serve as an authentic woman, that he would set you on fire in your life, that you would become a women of what it means to walk in grace. Even when you fall down, you get back up again, and you come to the Lord and receive your identity. And I just pray for any of us in this room whose hearts are shut down, any of us who are saying right now, this message is not for me, any of Lord Jesus, right now I pray that you would speak life into each one of us and make all things new. Make all things new. Seal this time. Seal this time of who we are. that we are who we are, not our neighbor, that we are who we are, and as a unique, precious, and unrepeatable creation, and that we are the same in changing circumstances, that we are in your love, that you have fearfully and wonderfully made us, and you delight in us. We just seal this time of healing, seal this time of grace. We entrust our hearts to you, Lord, the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and the Holy Spirit. I want to encourage you, my dear sisters, to once again receive the healing sacrament of confession. Like I talked about last night, these men, their hearts are configured to Christ, and their desire is to heal you. There's nothing you could say or reveal to shock them. They just love you. They want to reconcile you. So please, please go. Please go and receive that. We're going to have time for small groups and just time to be around one another, to share your story as vulnerably as you feel that you can, that you would receive sisters to each other, that we're not in competition, we are in solidarity, that we love one another. And I promise you this, one of the reasons I'm standing here before you today, I'm way out of time, I'm very sorry, but one of the reasons I'm standing here before you today is because my mother at one point had just had enough of me. No idea what else to do with me. And one night, I'm 20 years old in college, my mom got on her knees one night before the Blessed Mother. We have a statue of our Blessed Mother in our house. My mom got on her knees one night and she gave me away. And my mother, my sweet mother, just said to Our Lady, she's like, I don't know her anymore. She's out of control. And I give her to you. She's your daughter now. And I pray that you would heal her, you would watch over her. I give her to you as your daughter, and I ask that you would watch over her. She is your daughter now. I give her to you. And I'm 800 miles away in college playing Division I volleyball. I'm an active alcoholic. I'm pretty much living with a guy. My life is a hot mess. Unknown to me, that very night, my mom began to pray. So watch out, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Okay, that's what happens, right? But here's my prayer for you, and I mean this, and this is the only promise that I make, and it's the only promise that I keep. I promise you that before I go to sleep tonight, I will entrust every single one of you to our Blessed Mother. Every single one. I will entrust your story, your hearts, your dreams, your desires, whatever God is doing in your life. I promise you that I will entrust you to that beautiful woman. And as a sister, as a spiritual mother, I will pray for you every day for the rest of my life and into eternity. Our sisters as women is glorious. And it's my continued desire for you, like it is for myself, that we continue to let Jesus heal us, right? That he would make us new. And that our lives would become gloriously and vibrantly alive. And it has been an exquisite honor to spend time with you. Bless you. Thank you very much.